Today's video is all about reviewing Albion Online. Is it a game you should play? Is it a game you want to play? But this time, the reviews are from actual real people, not paid people, not people paid for a promotional event, not people being handed a bag in order to hang out with some sponsored streamer. These reviews will be coming not from Steam, but from 4chan. That's right, real actual people. Also, I'll be giving my own review towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But 4chan is an anonymous message board for, it's got video games and other hobbies on it. But essentially, people freely and openly speak their mind without fear of being downvoted like on Reddit, without fear of having their post banned or deleted if it's too harsh or critiques the game too much. And they are very, very passionate about their opinions. So I'm going to be reading them and then mentioning my thoughts and how it actually relates to the game. I'm a YouTuber with over 650 Albion Online videos. I've been playing this game ages. I'm one of the most famous players in the game. All the other streamers always talk about me all the time. I am basically the face of the game at this point. But unlike other creators for this game, I'm the only one who did not sign any kind of contract with the company that owns the game. I have not signed any legal documents or done any kind of promotions for the game whatsoever, nor have I literally have zero contact with the company. They don't like how I play, because I'm a bit of a villain in the game and stuff, and so they don't like me, and the streamers don't like me, and I'm pretty vilified in the game, but I'm a real person, a real gamer, who will give you the real down and dirty for this game. Let's go. So, one anonymous user critiques the game by saying that they keep saying or reading that this is a sandbox MMORPG, but the majority of the player base, the majority of the fan base, the people that play it say, if you don't want a PvP in this game, that you are missing the entire point of the game, which seems very conflicting, and I will agree and talk about this point. For me personally, I think the PvP in this game is absolute shit. I think it's boring, it's very low skill ceiling, and once you get the feel for it, you're basically just playing a very slow, long cooldowns MOBA. It's not fast-paced, it's not hyper-quick, it's not even strategic or tactical like in World of Warcraft. I personally never started playing this game because of the PvP. It didn't interest me at all. I was interested in the fact that I could PvP, which, if this game had no PvP, I would not play it, so that is a selling point. But at the end of the day, when I started to play this game, I was just interested in chopping wood and growing crops on farms. But unfortunately, those days have long passed, as botting and market manipulation have ruined gathering for the most part, where only very few things that are worth gathering, and it's still hours of your time to barely make any progress. And unfortunately, I can't show the price of premium at the moment because my apparently PvPing too hard on certain streamers gets you banned for a week, real talk. I made a video about that, go check it out on my channel. But the cost to grow the crops requires a premium subscription to the game, otherwise you're operating at a huge loss, so you're just flushing money down the toilet for no gains, which completely nullifies the point of growing crops in the first place. So that's my take on it, and at this point in the game, if you don't PvP, you don't really get much anywhere. Yeah, you can gather and do PvE, and you can make progress, but you won't make it nearly as quickly as someone that PvPs, and that's just the real hard facts. But the problem, unlike other games, is solo PvP it's fine in the safe zones, but in the high danger zones, it's a numbers game. Everyone's going to outnumber you, everyone's going to have better gear than you, and it's going to be a miserable experience, and you won't profit from it. So that's my take. The next hot take from 4chan, of course, is that it's already a solved game. So essentially, this user is saying that the Discord cartel guilds, they have the black zone and crafting markets cornered, which is absolutely true. As a new and solo player who doesn't want to do the guild stuff, doesn't want to be a slave to any of the cartels or the guilds, you will never be able to craft on their level because you have to have a hideout in the black zone, which is like a little base for your guild. And if you aren't crafting from that, you don't get the crafting bonuses, so you will never be able to sell at a profit that those guys are able to sell at. And that's just the truth. It's really unfortunate that that's the case. No new player can basically uproot the whales, and whaling is a big thing in this game as well. That's just how it is. People that pay real money into the game are obviously going to have a huge advantage over you because they can buy experience and they can buy items, and all the diehard, streamers and fans will try to tell you that it's not pay to win because unless you're good at the game, you'll die and lose your loot. And that is true. I have a friend that can kill 8.3, which is a very high tier of gear player in 5.1, which is like newbie gear. Like, they can take a newbie set of gear and they can play the game so good they can kill, very expensive sets of gear. But once you've played the game for like maybe a couple weeks, then that's no longer an issue, and the whales will absolutely stomp all over you with their power. But yes, this game is filled with people that treat this like their job, with Excel spreadsheets and all that. They do trading, they do caravans, which you will, again, it's a numbers game, they have the numbers over you. So if you're not a no-lifer that spends your entire time on the whims of a Discord neckbeard guild, to try to get into the clique, you're pretty much screwed. And it's not just within the game, it's also in content creation. Like, if you're not, sucking the Twitch streamers' cocks, then you're just spinning the wheels. They're all gonna hate you and dox you and post your face from, 2010. By the way, I've swolled up since 2010, Coco. And, solo players, they don't have much other than to grind Yellow Zone and Mists. And the full loot PvP areas just have guild sweats, and it'll just kill anyone who isn't in a group or the guild or an allied guild, right? So the average player, it plays like a phone game MOBA, and you're just going to waste hours grinding so you have a respectable set, which you'll just lose to a guild mob. The next critique is that the PvE and PvP for this game, compared to other MMOs or even sandbox games, is rather basic. So it doesn't have challenging or worthwhile PvE when compared to any other MMO in the past 20 years. It lives and dies by its PvP system, but the PvP is pretty basic rock, paper, scissors style. If you want a game where you harvest wood and rocks, there are way better games to play than Albion. I can agree to that one. And that a lot of devs keep trying to revive the sandbox design of Ultima Online, but they cut out all the rough edges that made Ultima Online bad. But all the bullcrap you could do in Ultima Online is what made it fun and worth returning to. I mean, when I played Ultima Online, I was but a child. I was a very young lad, and I have very fun memories of that game because I had to go to a cyber cafe to play it. And boy, oh boy, was it was a wild time. I remember poisoning my neighbors. I would leave like food on their porch that had poison, and then they would open their front door, and then they would grab the food and eat it. And then they would die, leaving their door open. I'd run in and loot their house. And I remember, like, camping outside of dungeons. And then when they would get out of the dungeon, they'd be all wounded and not able to fight. And I would just one-shot them and take all the loot. It was really fun. But Albion is a streamlined game. It tries to be too simple. And it's always trying to fix problems with systems instead of fixing the core game design to begin with. Such as making solo-only zones instead of fixing the solo gameplay with better anti-gank builds. And making the Guild v Guild less about ganking noobs for their resource packs, and instead fighting over high-tier nodes and control points. They're trying, but they haven't gotten there yet. Theme park players getting filtered. World of Warcraft is technically a theme park MMO. It's like you go to a Six Flags or Universal or a Disney World or whatever. I've never been to Disney World. I almost went once, but we just didn't go. We just didn't feel like it. We were not feeling very good. But essentially, there's no actual real group finder in the game. And yes, there technically is a group finder. I don't even know where it's at. It's one of the buttons up here. Not guilds, whatever. But it doesn't work. No one uses it. It's not like World of Warcraft where I can be like, I want to do a dungeon, and it puts me in a proper party. Yes, there are expeditions that you can go to town and go to the portals and do an expedition with a random group, but the rewards are so stinky, gross, bad, awful. They're not worth doing at all. It's the worst possible fame you can farm. It's pointless for silver. So why the hell would anyone... The whole thing... Group finders only work when there's a benefit to the player. So that's completely dead. And even if I stream, and like I said, I'm the face of the game, and I use Group Finder to try to get people to join me, no one uses it because it's just a completely dead system. So most people in this game, you play solo, unfortunately, and those that aren't solo, they play with their friends or a guild, of course, and unless you have friends or a guild, you cannot participate in group content, which is a huge problem with the game. And, I prefer theme park MMOs over sandbox, other than, Arcade. Arcade was really good, which is a theme park and a sandbox. So it kind of worked out, best of both worlds. But uh, essentially, there's not a lot to do. You don't have to play with others in this game. I mean, I definitely don't, and I've made my homestead just fine. And it's a perfectly viable playstyle to play solo, but there's no quest to do. After the tutorial, you're just on your own, so if you're not a creative thinker, if you're not someone who can be a busybody and find stuff to do, then you get kind of bored and usually just quit. That's why it's a theme park filter. So there are like when I watch new players on streams that don't read guides or have any kind of critical thinking skills, they're stuck in tier 3 zones for weeks because there's nothing that tells them how to advance out of that. And if they can't figure it out themselves and they don't watch a guide, then they're just spinning the wheels in the mud, man. The full loot PvP, like obviously, in all full loot games, never to bring your expensive set because there's always a hacker that'll get you. There's always a bigger group that'll get you. Like in Tarkov, you don't bring your expensive sets out because a 5-man group will just down you and take all your stuff, right? Essentially, this game is people don't fight players they know they can't beat, and you don't really learn that until you play the game enough or watch enough, guides and stuff. You eventually get a feel for it. You inspect someone, you know if you can kill them or not, and you hope that they don't realize that you can kill them, and they're willing to stand and fight. And that's usually how you acquire loot in PvP. There's nothing more than that. So taking the risks, I mean, it's not fun because most likely the other person knows exactly if they're going to win or lose before the fight even begins. It's horizontal progression. There's no real end game that you grind to, like in World of Warcraft. You're not spending months, gearing up from Onyxia to be able to do Molten Core, I guess, if you're a casual. And yes, I know you can progress much faster, but I'm talking about like 6 months waiting for that one item to drop. That's not in this game. You can pretty much get anything to an okay level on your first couple of days of playing, so that's neat. You can also afford in-game gear in your first couple of days of playing, so that's also nice. But as far as the game goes, like there's a huge lack of guides, which I capitalize on as a YouTuber. But other than that, it's there's no data mining and like metas because everyone tries to keep it secret. Us YouTubers, we try to post it out, and then most people get pissed off at us. And there's so many patches that like a lot of info gets outdated really quickly. There's a singular API that the game uses for markets, which people abuse. But other than that, there's not a lot of API abuse like in other games. But, it's good and bad. So one of them is like they're 30 hours into the game and the game hasn't clicked for them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't seem to be making any progress at all. And they realize that if they're in a guild or had a bunch of friends, that they could do way better, more lucrative activities and advance their character much more quickly, which is unfortunately true. That's just the reality of the matter. If you have a group of friends, you can do group stuff. You can really, really advance your character. I've spent my entire career on this game as a solo player, trying to teach everyone the fastest ways to advance as a solo player. And yeah, it's still slower than in a group, but not everyone fits in groups. Not everyone's social. Not everyone wants to bend the knee and suckle on the toes. And that's just how it is, sadly. Whereas in other MMORPGs, especially like World of Warcraft early on, like being in a huge group isn't the most beneficial. Sure, it's slightly beneficial to like grind dungeons and do some quests together, but ultimately solo players can somewhat keep up with the group players, but not so in this game. This game is very group dependent. One big gripe a lot of users have with the game is that if they go to a full loot zone, especially as a new player, and they don't know movements and mounts and stuff like that, then they get killed within minutes. They go out to a black zone, and this happened to me when I was new also, like, and I don't mean like the first time the game was out, I mean when I came back after the free-to-play update, when I hadn't touched the game in like 3 years, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I went to the black zone, of course, because that's what people did back then. There was IP caps, so yellow zones were not worth it. And essentially, you go out in the black zone, and suddenly you see a nameplate, and you're like, well, he's probably friendly, and then you're just dead. That's and maybe you went into with a group, someone invites you to a party, you're doing some group stuff, they just suddenly leave party and kill you. This happens to everybody. This game is absolutely brutal when it comes to going into full loot zones. As a new player, you're not going to survive very long. That's by design. That's just how it is. People don't like it though. There's nothing to do but grind, says one reviewer, and that is quite true. I mean, it's an MMORPG. That's what they're built for, is grinding. I mean, if a game doesn't have a good grind, then it gets pretty boring. Imagine you can max out all your specializations, have infinite money within like the first week of playing, I think people would just quit out of freaking boredom, right? Part of why I play MMORPGs is because I can simply just put more time into the game and get stronger than people who have to work jobs and have family obligations and have the privilege of, working a nice job. I think I just said that, but you get the idea, right? So essentially, unfortunately for Albion, compared to other MMOs, you could grind a whole lot and get nowhere. You can grind for like months on end and still get beat up by a player who only grinded for like 3 or 4 days. And yeah, if you cloned yourself and fought yourself, the person that grinded longer would win. But when it comes down to ping and rock paper scissors matchups and just skill in general, you're getting your ass handed to you from someone that's simply just better than you. And which also alienates a lot of the player base, especially the casuals, people that just want to put in a good couple of years of hard work and sit back and one-shot newbies. That's me. I don't want to play, try hard mode. I don't want to go pro gamer on anything. I'm done working hard in my life. That got me nowhere in retail, so I'm just done working hard. I just want to grind up like I did in World of Warcraft. I just want to get tier 2 gear and then go to a level 20 newbie zone and camp it. But you can't really do that in Albion. You can fight people in like a yellow zone, but you don't get to kill them or take their loot or anything. You just get to make them wait for 3 minutes, which is still fun, especially if you have sadism. But essentially, there's not a whole lot really that grinding really accomplishes other than number go up. Most content you die as a solo. So basically people are arguing that if you do the Avalon Roads, you die as a solo because a group will always kill you. You could escape, but essentially you're getting nothing done while running away, so you're just spinning the wheels. Black Zone, again, you die as a solo. Those places are meant for guilds. Red Zone, well, gankers gank in groups. The solo ganker gets ganked by the blue police, so you die as a solo, regardless if you are or aren't the ganker. And then Corrupted Dungeons, yeah, it's 1v1. But it's extremely unfun because you'll just die to a sweaty meta abuser. So the only thing left in the game currently for solo players is the Yellow Zone and the Mists, which, well, you're still outgeared in those two if you don't actually do the grind. So this review was from a beta player who also bought the Legendary Alpha, the Closed Beta, the Open Beta, and the Legendary Founders Pack for the new East release. But this guy deleted his post, but hey, lucky for 4chan Jannies, we can kind of see deleted posts. So anyway, so this guy, he's going to tell you why the game sucks in its current state, and he says that the entire game is a copy of EVE Online in every single aspect except for the art style. I've never played EVE Online, and when I try to watch streams of EVE Online, it looks nothing like this game. So I don't know if I can agree with this, but if you play EVE Online, let me know in the comments. Is it similar? So they say, when Albion starts facing any issues, they simply copy EVE. He says that you want to play an MMO solo? Invent Mists, which is basically wormholes. He says, Black Zone's monopolized, now we have hideouts. Still too much of, a timid person to play with a group, now you have Hellfire Dungeons. Which I think he means, like, the 2v2 thing? The game tries to cater to every kind of player out there, and by doing so, it alienates everyone. It's a true MMO sandbox that has so many single-player aspects to cater to noobs and Care Bears. He also states that the economy is completely screwed, guilds are so rich, and they have people who play 24/7 that they are too rich to fail, which is pretty much a lot of people. Even me as a solo player, I'm too rich to fail. I can go out and die in the most expensive sets in the game forever. I would last maybe, I don't know, like a year and a half playing the game 12 hours a day, throwing 8.4 sets out the window, and which I'm not going to do, but I could if I wanted to. So when they move stuff out of the Black Zone into the Red Zone, he says that the entire economy completely crashes. I've witnessed this a few times over the years, but I'm not the biggest economist, unless I'm trying to, get a whole bunch of, like, silver raised for a fun time. So tier 2 defaults can suddenly buy top gear. So he's saying that he's upset that low-tier players can buy top-end gear. I think that's a good thing. I don't want to have to grind for 6 months like in WoW to get top gear. He also says that bots are a huge problem because the high-tier resources are so common for the big guilds. It's all the low-tier gear that is worth the most, which, I tend to actually make more silver when I farm blue zones as a gatherer myself. I agree with that. The game is generally bots and people running around taking everything that isn't nailed down. If it's shiny, it gets gobbled up in 2 seconds. And I think this guy hasn't played in a while. The zones are more empty than back in the day. NPCs and any kind of PvE is completely brainless. Every mob follows the same bullcrap. A big telegraphed wind-up attack that forces you to use a movement skill and is easily dodged, but if it does hit you, you get blown out. Every mob behaves the same way, and the higher tier ones only have more health and do more stupid wind-up telegraph attacks more often. Basic attacks also do 0 damage, and all damage comes from skills which are on massive cooldowns. He also states that people expect you to play the game like a second life. Unlike Eve, you're not allowed to put it down ever. He continues, and he says that progression in the game feels mostly wasted because everything is gank-based. 1v1 skill means very little outside of 1v1 dungeons. The game is built around Zerg vs. Zerg, where people spend hours in Discords trying to educate their family, their guild members. In 90% of cases, people still loot stuff without permission, which makes people rage at you, and you get people screenshotting your looting corpses in the middle of fights, and rats looking to steal your loot at any opportunity. I don't have a lot of experience with the guild stuff, so I don't really know. I can't comment, man. But he says ratting and stealing loot is pretty much the only way to victory in this game, playing in small teams with crappy gear, where you can easily peel and lock people down and hope that their gear is better than yours. This is how I play in the Mists. I use a crappy tier 4 set, and I go and kill the most expensive people I could find. If one of you dies, you lost almost nothing, but if you manage to kill someone, then you can get a bunch of money and a few pieces of high tier gear if they don't trash. In most cases, though, the gear is just used to further your PvP, so there's no real numeric or common theory crafting style progression at all that makes other MMOs much more fun, like World of Warcraft, Black Desert Online. You're basically your gear. That's it. It's the same in Eve, except Eve is actually fun, he says. He further goes on to state that guilds are so persistent, I'm going to change the word there to something, tolerable, at making everyone play 10,000 hours a day, that they will invent Discord bots and forum posts and login requirements and have bots on different websites that track your progress. And he says, oh, you didn't log in within the last 2 days? Here's your first warning. Oh, you didn't deposit 5,000 tier 5.3 bags we assigned you? You're kicked from the guild and all your stuff is now locked in our hideout, haha. Didn't post daily ass kiss to the forums or official, inner circle moderators about how amazing we are? You're kicked out. Praise us on Reddit to come back. Unlike Eve, where you can generally just mess around and have fun, in the most insanely busy corporations, every guild in Albion requires 10 pints of your blood, and they're run by egotistical psychopaths. This person is very passionate, and they continue their review. If you want to craft or do anything other than PvP, you have to do lots of player versus ilm. I don't know what ilm means. Microtransactions? Merchants? And generally have good gear and a few sets of it. If you want to gather at a reasonable speed, you need expensive tools, which are worth more than the entire sets of gear in most cases. Then you need to start using spreadsheets. You need to remember where all your stuff is, how many stones and other stuff you have to make into bricks, and to build your own island, when generally nothing is going to ever be used anyway. You need to feed your buildings so they operate. You need to have a premium so you can get a decent amount of energy, which I'm guessing he means focus, so you can get seeds for replanting so you aren't paying more money than you're making from your vegetables. I complained about this at the start, so we actually agree on that one. I hate that. Like, the game used to not be that way. It used to be when you bought premium, you would always make your money back and then some, and that made it really fun, because I would just spend all day growing crops on like 100 characters. That's what I like to do in this game, but they took that away from us. Oh well. And he also says, ultimately, you've spent 500 hours on a game and learned one thing only, that you don't want to continue the game. Well, if there was something else to play, man. If there was something else to play. You've seen the best and the worst. You realize that nothing you do matters, or will last, because it's a sandbox. People will always come and go, but you'll still be doing the same stuff over and over, because the content that is added to the game is nothing more than a new set of gear, or a few different locations, or some slightly different mechanics. No big expansions, no new areas, no places to play, completely different things to do. You're still grinding those veggies on your island and still trying to outsmart people in slightly more expensive gear than you. You get bored, it doesn't matter if you do have a reasonable guild that is together with doing events. There's no reward that is worth the amount of time it takes to do anything in this game. Oh man, like I understand that so much. I mean, I could spend hours gathering or I can just spend minutes flipping. I get you, bro. Honestly, the only thing that it might be worth is collecting and monopolizing on extremely rare mounts and items. Not anymore. This guy missed the part where skins got nerfed. Oh no. And he says invest in anchors from the founders packs. I think he probably is trying to do a little flip there on his review, but hey, you never know. This one says that they loved it as their first full loot MMO until they realized that not being in a big guild will lock you all out of almost everything that the game has to offer, and that his small group of friends couldn't do anything against the big guilds. And he looked at a few dozen guilds, and every single one of them had mandatory Discord crap, CTAs, and donation requirements, ridiculous kill counts. Like, there's guilds that require you to have killed 5,000 players. That's ridiculous. That's a lot. Man, I've been playing, this character 3 years now, on and off. I've got I technically have 300 kills on the live server. This is the test server. But, yeah, it's, it's ridiculous. It is wild. And, I mean, what are you supposed to do, man? Like, not everyone is a submissive little, person, oh, I want to do hardcore expeditions. I'm going to have to glock the Discord owners to, be able to find a group. This person states that the best time to play Albion was during the open beta, which I never personally got to play. I was busy with other games and having a job in real life at the time. So I wasn't much into video games. But this post was also deleted by the user for some reason. I guess he pissed off his guild. So he says he was in alpha, closed beta testing, open beta testing, and that he played it quite a lot since then, but he was in and out of the game for the past 3 years. He came back, played for a long time, never got into it. He says the golden age was during open beta, because during the open beta there was smaller but still a huge game world, no Care Bear hideouts, no rifts, no mists, no nothing. Hellfire 1v1 dungeons were good for those who wanted small-scale, mostly solo PvP. I didn't know they had 1v1 Hellgates. That sounds cool. Now the game is terrible. He says, hideouts absolutely destroyed the game. There is no sense of danger anymore in Black Zones. You join a decent massive guild, you are pretty much set that you can wander around unchecked, and if anyone kills you, you grab a few goons, which I guess he means guild members, and go wipe their entire base. The portals are another cancer, he says, that instead of before, where you'd have completely different ecosystems in different areas, you now have the same stuff in every area, because someone, in some mega southern part of the map can teleport. I think they removed that from the game to the other part of the world. Even worse is than Eve's people using portal maps. Oh, he's talking about Portaler, like through the Ava roads? And there's no sense of mystery where these things take you, and you can always easily plot a path home. Yeah, that's Portaler cheating right there. So Albion didn't have a rough start at all. It was the best start a game could possibly get. He was in the best guild at the time. He says KDS. I don't know what that means. And they were the top-ranked guild and owned dozens of Black Zones. Everyone quit as soon as hideouts were introduced, and regular Black Zones bases were removed and just replaced with PvP arenas where you capture a base and build your hideout. It's just a joke now. He also states that progress in the game is, do you have every single weapon and armor maxed out? And instead of training weapons and armor, people just milk silver and then buy the Tomes of Insight to max out their specialization. So he says, it's not even fun to play with a small group, you need a full guild. This user's review states about forced playstyles, also deleted. Well, who keeps... Did someone ban a bunch of people on this? Anyway, so the one of the biggest issues in the game is that it's built around the flavor of the month streamers and not the actual players. I don't know if he's referring to me or someone else, but essentially says there's 3 kinds of players in the game. Number 1 is players that focus entirely on specializing in one thing and doing ZVZ and propping up a guild through combat, gathering, or crafting. He says also, solo players that just craft and take everything that isn't nailed down, and they suck at combat and they run from every other player. And then he says sweaties or sweaters and tryhards that only solo play and hunt down other solo players, but they have 0 in-game wealth and do no gathering whatsoever, which is like the majority of the Twitch streamers, right? So It's so bewildering to me that the Twitch streamers like can't use tier 8, avatools. Everyone, one way or another, is forced into one of these boxes. You will either play with a massive guild that will block you from all content, and they have no interest in replacing your gear, but they expect you to act as a meat shield in ZVZ. If you try to gather groups up to do Zergs and small PvP, they'll kick you for freeloading. The solo phone players, drooling newbies who just craft stuff and sit on their couch all day doing nothing except mining rocks in safe zones and building the island or stalls in safe zones. Hardcore soloists that are trying to become the next hardcore esport player who think they're hot shit because they run around in 7.2 gear killing tier 5 and tier 6 gatherers. Now that's familiar. That's basically all at Twitch right now. It's a shame because the art in the game is beautiful. This guy likes the art of the game. I don't like the art. It's a little pixely. It's also huge that the game is completely focused around those three things, and if you don't fit into any of them, it's a mess. Starting from scratch in this game is a joke. Most people will just buy gold and then swap it for silver to try to train and level up before burning out, before achieving anything. He says, at least in EVE, it's easy to get started, every single ship is viable, and you can step away from the game, keep your character training, and come back a year and fly maxed tier 3 ships. Again, I don't play EVE, so I don't know what he's talking about. This one complains about rebalancing ruining the long-term playability. He says if you step away from the game and you come back, there's like 5 new weapons, armors, mechanics, feature creep that you need to deal with, dumb new mechanics, weapons and armors have been rebalanced to try to kill metas, the economy completely crashes or changes so dramatically that there's another 100 different stupid cosmetics that don't do anything, that if you watch the Twitch people for drops, you get untradeable items because they're scared people will set up bots to claim the drops and sell them, which is a thing people already do anyway. The game used to be 100% full loot, now it's mostly cosmetic and other crap where they're trying to make a thing of value is maybe your opponent's mount and their weapon, and 2 to 3 pieces of their gear. Everything else is trash and not even worth picking up, which I've noticed. I've noticed a lot of streamers when they get kills, they don't loot everything. They just loot the weapon, the armor, maybe the mount. Most mounts are overpowered with skills, trying to take down a mammoth and steal all the loot. Even with a big group is impossible. I disagree with that. I have seen I can 3-man a mammoth. You could I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about, but he says that all there is to do in the game is to collect and monopolize very rare things like seasonal mounts and items. Which I wish the game was more fun for gatherers and crafters, but if you want to do either, you need to be in a guild, because there's nothing at all to be gained or benefit from doing that solo. Another thing that sucks compared to EVE is that there's generally no penalty for ganking. There is a penalty for ganking in red zones. You only have to wait a short time before being allowed to go back to a major capital city and trade, use the auction house. In EVE, if your standing gets too low from ganking, you're screwed and killed on sight for months. EVE sounds brutal. Maybe we should give it a try. Apparently in EVE, everything you can learn can be completely viable for solo play, which is awesome. See, that's what I hate about Albion. A lot of weapons and armors aren't viable at all for solo play. Yeah, you could use them, but you're just better off using something else for the solo activities. In Albion, there's 0 point in gathering, crafting, or breeding mounts as a solo player. Absolutely none. There's nothing awesome to do or gain as a solo player whatsoever. Your entire enjoyment is based on how well your guild is doing and how much you enjoy that journey, unless you like mindless gathering and grinding with no goals whatsoever. I guess I've just been playing the game wrong since I'm a solo player, and yeah, so that's all the 4chan reviews. So how about my review? So before I get to my review, I just need to clear something up because lately there's been a little bit of drama in the game regarding me being banned for stream sniping, and people are speculating that it's not because I stream sniped, it's because I made videos about it or anything. And I just want to clear the air right now by showing this. This is a ticket. I don't know how to zoom in. I don't think I can zoom in, but essentially this says, "Hello, your ban is tied to in-game behavior. Any kind of interactions you may have had in third-party programs such as chats or social media has nothing to do with it." So, for those that don't know, I am completely permanently muted in this game. I cannot type in the chat at all. So this means that I was banned for 1 week for PvPing in a safe PvP zone. That's right. I downed people in a yellow zone by beating them up. It makes them wait 3 minutes. It's an in-game mechanic, an in-game activity, and they banned me a week for it. So that's definitely going to be in my review here. So let's get started. All right, so my review, it starts when the game released. You had to pay to play it, and back then, the game was quite based and red-pilled, as one would say. You could say almost anything you wanted in the chats. You could behave however the fuck you wanted. You could even have really mean, nasty character names, and no one gave a shit. The actual devs at the time laughed about it. They thought, hey, you know, this game ain't for, you know, softies, so to speak. And things slowly changed over time, as things tend to do, you know, with the political climate of the world and just stuff happening. And the game got worse and worse and worse. Now, I was always a solo player. I, you know, had just bad experiences in guilds playing World of Warcraft, and I just didn't want to experience that kind of crap ever again. And I didn't make content until about 2020. I just kind of casually played the game, you know, on and off while playing other games and having a job at the time and stuff. And so I just wanted to chop wood, craft bows, and I was happy. I was happy in my lane. And what happened was I eventually learned about the market economy, and bow crafting became heavily unprofitable. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just be a lumberjack. I'll just chop wood and refine it into planks and go town to town and sell it wherever it's best to sell it. And then that economy died. And I was like, well, crap, what do I do now? And, you know, I kind of branched out after that and started doing a little bit more things. At some point, like, here's how I was introduced to the game, because I would go to Reddit and read posts of what the best thing to do is, the most efficient thing to do. And at the time, Reddit was like, oh, the best dungeon clearing build in the game is the Great Axe. You should buy the Great Axe, you know, and buy it from Martlock because they sell Great Axes cheaper. And I'm like, oh, that sounds good. So I leveled up Great Axe, and I did the dungeons and all that kind of crap. And one day, I had a guy invade my dungeon, and he had bolt casters. And I was like, ugh, bolt casters, that's a stupid weapon. And that guy cleared the dungeon so much faster than I could have ever dreamed of. And I was like, I've been playing the game wrong. I've been playing this game wrong the whole time. And I started doing my research, and then I realized that this game has a test server where you can test out your character with maximum level skills and abilities and weapons. As a matter of fact, I am actually on the test server right now. You can see I have 1.4 trillion gold or silver, and you know, 115 years of premium. That, you know, you can tell it's a test server, right? I'm not trying to hide that this is the test server. And, you know, on the test server, you can go here and you can unlock the entire Destiny board, which means everything is maximum level. You can see it at its full potential. You can go to these little candy stores, they call it, and just craft the best gear in the game. Here's an 8.4 spear. Very cool. I can go awaken this for free and pump up the stats even more if I wanted. So I learned about the test realm, and I started doing science experiments. I was like, that boltcaster guy was faster than me, but Reddit told me that the Great Axe was the best. What's going on here? I felt so betrayed. I was like, am I just playing wrong? What's happening? And I realized I tested all the weapons, I tested all the abilities, and it turns out that I was simply being lied to by Reddit. Can you imagine? And I was like, well, why would they lie? What do they have to benefit? Because I come from theme park MMOs. This kind of thing didn't happen in arcades. Back then, we didn't really have... We had, like, V-Bulletin forums, I guess, for Ultima Online, and that didn't happen. Everyone was chill. But these days, boy, oh boy, I learned about the cartel, which is a huge blight on this game. And let me tell you, the people pushing the Great Axe agenda on Reddit were all Great Axe crafters. An entire guild dedicated to the Great Axe. They wanted as many people playing Great Axe as possible, buying their Great Axes, losing their Great Axes, and replacing them. It was an entire little monopoly they had carved out for themselves. So, of course, me being, you know, a budding YouTuber, I had gained some very influential friends in the space who at the time were not, you know, million sub channels, but they are now. You know, we grew together, and boy, oh boy, you know, I started making content for this game, and I'm like, you know, the Great Axe ain't the greatest. Boltcasters is the way to go if you have low spec, light crossbow if you have high spec. Use this item instead, use these items. And my videos started getting lots and lots of views, hundreds of thousands of views, because they were correct, they were educational, they were real. And you know what happened? These cartels, oh man, they really laid it thick, trying to, you know, slander my name, post fake screenshots, try to make me look bad, call me names, all sorts of really bad, nasty things, and it's continued to this very day. You know, like it's just been an uphill battle with these cartel freak shows, and it's not just a cartel for markets or items in the game. There's a cartel, literally a Twitch cartel, which I've given up trying to fight and you know befriend. Like, there's no winning, there's no losing. It's just there's too many. They're just too intertwined. It's over. But essentially, you know, that's a content creator problem. That's not the average player problem. I'll leave that shit out of my review. But essentially, the first bad thing about this game is that there are people that care so damn much about their income and their funding and the agendas that they have that they will lie to Reddit and gaslight everybody and tell them all the wrong information in hopes that they can sell their stupid pixel great axes. I'm not even joking, okay? And this cartel of sorts extends to the player-owned shops, where they raise and lower taxes to manipulate the market so that no one can ever truly succeed, especially as a solo. Once they own the shops, they can change the operating cost depending on if you're in their guild or not. So if you're just a regular solo player, you're paying full price in taxes. If not, then you pay the discount, and if you're their best friend, you get it for free. And if you don't craft in the towns, you craft at a loss, because the towns give you a bonus to returning rates of your materials. And nowadays, if you don't craft in the black zones, you still don't have enough return rate in order to even squeak out a profit in most niches. The only safe things left in this game to craft is food items, which can't be manipulated by the market, at least not yet. I'm sure they'll figure out a way one day, especially if I release my cooking secrets. But other than that, potion market's looking a little wild at the moment, but it's been dead for the past 2 years. So who knows when that'll die again. I don't really think that'll last very long. But essentially, the markets are so volatile, and without number crunching like 20 hours of math every other month, you're not going to succeed in the market or make silver through flipping or through conventional means like you would in World of Warcraft or other MMORPGs. So that's a huge strike, and Reddit is just full of misinformation and people pushing agendas, and you know, I can't even see the Discord or the official forums anymore. I just don't even bother, and I'm sure it's there too. It's like even YouTubers will push an agenda. Not me. I don't push agendas because I make a video for a version of myself that forgets everything. Like, I hit my head one day and I just forget, what the hell is Albion Online? How do I play this shit? What do I do? And so I've always made my videos in order to save a version of myself that has its memory wiped through witchcraft or bumping of the head or going back in time and somehow being able to keep the YouTube videos. I don't know. It's whatever. You know, don't question it. I'm just a weirdo. But essentially, it's just a huge problem this game has, and there is nothing being done to fix it. As a matter of fact, this is one of the biggest MMOs of misinformation I've ever seen. Like, the wikis are out of date. It's so weird. Like the other day, I actually tried to pull information from the wiki, old information, and it was gone. I was actually looking up the damage of poison potions in the game, right? Which, you know, I could just pull up in the game. I can just open the game, scroll down here, look at the poison potion damage, and yes, I could see the live damage of the poison potion. I wanted to see the old damage values of the poison potion. When I went to the wiki, there was no damage values at all. Not for the live server, not for the old poison potion either. But when I dug deeper into the wiki, it was there at one point. But then one of the game masters, a very infamous one that is known for being very ban happy, altered the document and removed that information. So you have a game master that works for the company, or at least whoever, you know, is using the wiki is using the exact same name as the game master, who removed the information about how much damage the poison potion does from the article, which is so weird to me. I don't get that. I gotta show you. So here's the wiki article for the major poison potion. There's no damage values on this page at all. It's so weird. You go to view history, and you can see that the last edits were done. Well, I don't know who this person is. But Clementine is the game master, and I go all the way back to Key 4's post here, and oh look, it has how much resistance it's reduced by, the true damage, and so on and so forth. So why is that kind of information being removed from the wiki? That's so odd. It's like this game tries to be secretive in its information, and I mean, it works out for me. I'm a YouTuber, so I'm like basically a Sword Art Online info broker, but for free. For the most part, you can become a channel member, get some extra tidbits of info and stuff, or join the Discord and get all that stuff for free. But regardless, it's just so odd to me that it's not just like the staff of the game, it's other guilds, it's other content creators. They try to keep everything like locked down tight, like anything they do in this game is gonna matter in 10 years. Like, bro, just tell us how to make silver and how much damage the poison potions do. It's okay to let people learn about the game, That way we're all on the same even playing field. You don't have to have some super secret jujitsu technique, mega anime, spell that you're gonna pull out of your ass and own, own the Black Zone gankers with, okay? So back in the day, I would say that this game was very miserable to play and that it's been improved upon, which I will give kudos for. So let me explain. Back in the day, there's different zones. Like, this is a yellow zone, and this is a red zone, and then all the way up here, then let's zoom out, there's the black zone. So back in the day, if you had super good gear and you went to a yellow zone, it limited how much power you got from that gear, putting you on equal level footing with everyone else in the zone, if they had the good enough gear. That's not the case anymore. I can take amazingly super-powered gear in the yellow zone and just one-shot everything. It makes farming hyper-efficient, and because a yellow zone is technically a safe zone, I can never die and never lose the gear, so there's zero risk and all the reward. So, back in the day, you had to take, like, if you want to make any kind of progress, right? If you had, because the item power limitations the yellow zone had, it was inefficient to farm these zones. Your power was so limited that you would kill stuff slower than if you just took a good set of gear to the black zone, which made the game risk adverse, right? It forced you to go to the black zone eventually after, speccing up enough and having a little bit of spending cash, because you were making no progress in the yellow or blue zones. They removed this item power limitations, and now we just use 8.4 gear, which is the best gear in the game, and we farm blue and yellow zones hyper fast with zero risk, and it kills a lot of the fun. Like, yeah, it's nice to be able to watch anime and listen to music while not paying attention to the game, while I just smash everything down. Yeah, that's nice, it's good, but back in the day, you actually had to go to the risky zones, and everyone went to the risky zones, right? You had to, and we all fought over things. And there was a lot more risk, too. Like, when you did a solo dungeon, it didn't close. And what that means was you could be, like, 3 levels deep in a dungeon, and someone could come up behind you and start fighting you. And back then, it was exciting. People didn't know what they were doing. There was no metas. People weren't hyper-vigilant about watching their back, so you could be the invader and have a lot of PvP fun. But nowadays, those portals, they close in 90 seconds, and the only people that go to black zones are people in guilds, or people that are new and oblivious to how the game works, or people simply looking to kill you with gank sets. It's not everyone out, with different mishmashes of gear, because back then, you would catch people fame farming in a fame farm set, right? They weren't prepared to PvP, so if you had a PvP set, you had the advantage. But now it's the only people in black zones are people in PvP sets in groups. So, that fun's gone. It's just not how it is anymore. Now, there was full loot in the save zones, and it was a little different because if you faction flagged, that removed your item power cap, and it was full loot though if you faction flagged. So you would see people in high tier gear soloing group dungeons with a dagger set. And what was one of my most fun things is, I had some friends at the time that played the game, and, they haven't logged in years. Let's see, 2.5 years, 6 months, 3 months, 3 months. I guess people came back to play, a little bit, but essentially, a lot of people quit the game. But, we would find someone in a lot of really good gear that's faction flagged. We would follow them around from a distance and watch them enter a dungeon. and then we would go faction flag up and go into the dungeon and kill them and take their loot, and it was great. That's not the thing anymore. There's no full loot in factions unless you go to the red zone, and factions are just kind of like it turned the game into PlanetSide 2. You know, you got the different factions, you go capture outposts and stuff. It's a whole different game than what it used to be. It used to be way more fun, but it's more accessible. It's something I could log in and not really worry too much about. Play for a little while, log out, not have a big commitment over it. So it's whatever. And over time, they added a bunch of stuff to the game. They added Corrupted Dungeons, which is just a 1v1 rock, paper, scissors mode with traps. Unfortunately, it's not worth farming for fame. It's not worth it anymore for loot. It used to be the best way to farm loot in the game. Now, also, I need to mention, too, that solo dungeons back in the day made you 2 to 3 million per hour. Remember those IP caps? Once those got removed, you could farm yellow zone dungeons in like a minute and a half and make 2 to 3 million silver per hour. If you could still farm them that quickly in today's age, but you're only going to make about 300,000 to 400,000 per hour with premium. It's really, really bad for silver now. They have nerfed and gutted it completely. I have old videos on my channel that show these numbers, that show this proof. I'm not just getting lucky every single time. It was consistent silver. And nowadays, it's not even good for fame. You just farm the open world. They redid the open world, made it 6 times more profitable to just kill mobs on the surface than to go into a dungeon. That's not fun. That's not interesting. That's boring. I mean, they recently updated the graphics for the dungeons and added some mobs, but they didn't fix the rewards. Look, the players are gonna go. You know, the rats are gonna go where the cheese is. Okay. You know, if your rewards suck for these dungeons, the players simply won't do them, at least the ones that are knowledgeable of the game. So a lot of the content is just outdated. There's no reason for me to do Corrupted Dungeons because the rewards suck, and I don't care to play the meta, the rock, paper, scissors meta. Oh, you have to have Hunter Hood, you have to have Soldier Boots, you have to have Leather Armor, and then my weapon beats your weapon because I can run away from you and heal 20 times before you eventually give up and let me kill you. It's not fun. It's awful, awful, awful boring. Then they added another solo mode called the Mists. The Mists are the answer to, I guess, stream snipers and to people that gang up on people, but essentially you enter this random portal in the open world. It throws you in a randomly instanced area it's an open area. And you can do little objectives, you can farm chests and mob camps and stuff, and the other players that are in the Mist with you will not be in a guild, they won't be teaming up, except they will. Everyone inspects each other before a fight. If you're wounded, everyone will dismount and kill you. And if you go in super geared, a lot of people will gang up on you. If you go in under geared, a lot of people will gang up on you. So the only real answer is to go in medium tier gear and hope that people don't single you out because you're wearing a cursed staff and they hate cursed staffs, or you're wearing double bladed and so they need to get rid of you because you're going to be a pest for the entire rest of the time the Mist is open. It's just, it's kind of rock, paper, scissory, but it's also kind of hive mind mentality. A lot of people gang up on a lot of people. They only take fights they know they can win, or opportunities that they know they have a high advantage of. It's just not very fun. Like, I could go in a crappy, like, tier 4 set and kill people in very expensive sets because they're low on HP, or they're in a mob camp, or they're running from a ganker and I'm just standing in front of them as they run away. There's so many different opportunities to kill people, and people may find that fun. I don't find it skillful or fun, but it is profitable. I will attest to that. There's the Nightfall Abbey, which is in the Mist, and that's not profitable anymore. They gutted that too. It's not fun. It's okay for fame. It's an okay fame farm. It's not that great though. But the best fame farms in the game, you go to the blue zone down here to these little static areas, and you just farm them with a very specific set of items that allows you to heal yourself while killing them as quick as possible. And then you just use those points to allocate to all your other stuff. But a lot of people these days, they don't even grind. They just make money, and then they buy these Tomes of Insight right here, these things, and then they just blow them on their character. And that's just how it goes. And yes, I still have all those mules from back in the day. 27 million per stack, wow. It's okay amount, you know, it's okay amount of money. Boy, oh boy, and they keep changing things and nerfing things and altering things. I had a guy he was like rank 37 or 38 in the world for corrupted dungeons, and they nerfed a helmet he used. He really they removed a spell from the helmets. He used Mage Cowl with a poison spell, and they made it a fire breath spell, and it pissed him off so much he quit the game and gave me all his stuff. Imagine one of your top PvPers quitting the game over such a ridiculous change. I actually like the change because it helps me in PvE, but most people don't like, they don't like change. I mean, in real life, I don't like change. Change has never been good. When's the time something changed for the better? I can't name a single thing. And so this game is constantly changing, just little by little. You could drop it for a year, come back, and there's going to be different skills on your armor. It'll be nerfed, it'll be completely different, you never know. And so it's a little bit inconsistent in those regards. They added some other content, but it's not for solo players, and even the group players aren't really enjoying it, so I'm just going to move on. Let's talk about all the cheaters, hackers, and stuff like that. Every game has it. And this game, back in the day, they did an amazing job at actually taking care of the botters. Way back in the day, if you reported a botter, you would get a Game Master response in like 5 to 15 minutes. They would sometimes ask for your assistance in pointing them out. They'd teleport to you, they'd investigate, and if it was a bot, they would full kill the bot and allow you to loot everything on it. So you got a little reward if you found a bot, because you got their stuff, which was really, really good, for especially if you're a new player and you managed to find and report a bot. You got to pick up all their resources, their gathering tools, their gear. It was really, really cool. And so it really incentivized people to report and get rid of bots. And, the game was actually bigger back then, and it's not like they had more staff or anything. They were just more proactive about it. And then for a long time, they actually ignored bots. I think this was after the buyout, but essentially, nothing was being done to bots. It would take months for a bot to get banned, and then they'd just come back in force. And if you guys ever played on the East server, you saw how bad bots truly got. They're still combating bots, though. They're still at least dealing with them. And unlike other games, like Amazon, New World, it could be worse. It's not the worst game, that deals with bots, but they're still there. They exist, just not nearly as bad as, say, Lost Ark. Oh, man, Lost Ark completely... Like, I quit Lost Ark because of the bots. I quit New World because of the bots. And the lack of, human support. So, kudos for dealing with the bots. It could be worse. It's better than World of Warcraft, that's for sure. But another thing, too, is like the cheaters. And you have the speed hackers, which I haven't actually seen a speed hacker in a very long time. It's been maybe 6 months since someone speed hacked. And the CEO claims that speed hacking is solved, and I haven't seen any. So, hey, congrats. I'm sure it's still possible to do, but I'm sure it's highly detectable and easily bannable at this point. Hopefully, but you never know, they might make a comeback. I still fear going into the full loot zones because I just know if someone did speed hack, I'm toast. And that's not a good feeling. Next up is the radar hackers, which are currently in the game, and a lot of people do it, and it's a lot of people that radar hack. Which, it's just a little box on the screen that'll show you where resources and players are and what they're wearing from off your screen. It's I don't think it can be fixed anytime soon, at least not easily. It's just a problem with most games. Luckily, it's like if you're still good at the game, even though they know you're coming and know you're around, the only real way to lose to it is in a one-shot dagger pair build, which sucks when it happens, but it hasn't happened to me, so I can't complain too hard. What else do we have? There's drop cheats, and I'm still a victim of this. Like, sometimes when I gank yellow zones, people will use a drop hack to disconnect me shortly. Luckily, I've noticed a change in the game, at least when I did a little stream sniping, which I don't do anymore because it's now bannable. I made a video about it, so, lesson learned, right? But, okay. Essentially, when you get drop hacked, the game, I guess, figures out you're being drop hacked, and it immediately disappears your character from the world. So someone can't just drop hack you anymore and then kill you and take your stuff. So that's good, but it's still annoying to get disconnected from the game and then have to log back in, and then the game thinks that you're still logged in already. And some of these cases are just the server shitting itself. But I always check my internet connection. I always monitor that stuff, and it's not my internet. there is a lot of wacky stuff going on in the world right now that could affect things, like explosions and warfare. So depending on where you live, that might be affecting your connection too. But there are drop hacks out there. There is a cooldown reduction hack as well. I haven't seen that one in 6 months, so maybe that one's fixed. I don't have videos or proof of this, and I'm not going to show videos of proof of this. The less I show and talk about it, the better for the game. But that's just how it is, man. Every game's got the cheaters. This one, it's got some, but it's not the worst case scenario. It's not New World, case scenario, okay? There's a lot more I can talk about, but I'm getting a headache, and I'm just going to end the video now, rather than pick back up on it later. I mean, I could review, like, the PvP, the PvE, but I'm just a solo player. I just grind. I just make simple videos. I just watch anime while I chop wood and skin animals, man. That's all I really do in this game, real talk. How do we end this? Oh yeah, I want to touch on the fact that apparently PvPing people too hard in a yellow zone is now bannable as well. Not just stream sniping, but if you down one player consistently, it's considered harassment. So or if you single someone out in a red or black zone, if you just gank the same person over and over, even if they're invading your territory or they keep coming at you, that's considered harassment. It's so stupid, man. This game got really Care Bear soft, and I don't know what direction it's headed or where it wants to be, but it's no longer got the reputation of the hardcore PvP game, where you can PvP and talk some smack and have some fun. It's now don't hurt someone's feelings by playing the video game the way the game is programmed to be played. So I don't recommend investing too much energy into this, but it is a game that will be there for you if you want to pick up and play for a few hours when there's nothing else to do. With that said, like the video, because people, I don't know, or don't like, it doesn't really matter if you like the video anymore. I mean, this will get a few thousand views and then that's it. Who cares? No one really cares about my opinions of a review, because I'm not Asmongold. I'm not some quirky zoomer with, zoomer tier editing that's gonna, do a bunch of funny little skits and stuff, so who cares? It's not gonna. I designed my videos specifically not to be reacted by Asmongold. I specifically, tweet things at Asmongold so that he hates me and won't react to my videos. Though sometimes he forgets who I am and reacts to them anyway. But those big shots, they don't give a shit about Albion, because mainly the ad revenue isn't there, and the audience that they want to build and the communities they want to build aren't in their style. So, this game will always be one of those games you play when you're, in a poorer country, I guess. But that's all. Like the video, leave a comment. I read every comment. I might even respond to your comment. And if you want to donate, it really pisses off the Twitch streamers. So that's really nice. Just leave a big fat donation and they'll get mad about it. And then they'll show my face from 2010 again on their streams, like they have been doing lately. Oh boy, hey, let's dox Benji. Hey, here's what he looked like 14 years ago. Oh man, what a gremlin. It's silly shit, dude. I'm way more handsome than all of them combined, and I know it. They know it. And, that's just how it is, they're just jealous. I'll see y'all later. Mwah.